Hello my loves, I'm back with a new video and today it's all about the booby milk. So if it's TMI for you and you don't want to hear about breastfeeding, then I suggest you click off now. For those of you that want to hear my journey and all the things I've gone through or some tips, keep watching. Breastfeeding. Where do I begin on the journey of breastfeeding? I heard a lot of horror stories about breastfeeding from other moms, from things online that I read, and so I was a little nervous to start, but I will say that I heard that it was very painful the first couple of weeks, and I thought to myself, you know, how painful could it really be? Yeah. It was pretty bad. It was pretty painful. So the first couple of weeks I was super sore. You know, you're exhausted. First of all, when you first have a baby, you're exhausted, and the last thing you want to do is have a baby latched onto you. But which Aria did very, very well in the hospital. She latched right on, and so when she latched on, I was like, yay, my baby latched, we're good to go. You know, the breastfeeding journey has started off really well, and then it was just like she just wanted to be at my breast like all the time, and that's when it was kind of painful. Lanolin is like the best thing ever. It's like this nipple cream that you can put on, and it's supposed to be really, really safe for the baby. And so I would put it on my nipples literally before every feeding and after every feeding. I learned that from a good friend of mine, so thank you, girl. And so I recommend putting lanolin on your nipple before you latch the baby, and definitely after every time. It doesn't hurt, and it definitely helped. It was just like instant soothing every time I finished breastfeeding and I put it on. 2 days after coming home and bringing Aria home, I had a meltdown to my husband, and I called one of my really good girlfriends who lives up the street from me and also breastfed her baby and did it for a year. I called her over and I was like, I need you here now. I need help. I need you to see if she's latching on correctly, if I'm doing this thing right. Like, there were so many just aspects of it. She came over, and so I definitely want to say, use your help. Like, if you have someone, one of your close friends or someone that you know close to you that can come over and help you and just show you what to do, how to latch, if you're doing it correctly, or just someone to vent to and just get advice from, I definitely recommend that, because I had one of my girlfriends that did it and she was awesome, and I love you, boo, and you know who you is. Hey girl. Once I got past the pain, and once, you know, I felt like, okay, Aria's doing well, she's feeding well, she's eating, we're getting the hang of it, then another roadblock came in our breastfeeding journey. Aria was about 3 weeks old, and she started getting super, super fussy, colicky. Like, I heard about the colics and the baby colics, but I just knew something wasn't right. She was screaming, crying after every feeding, and during the feeding she would pull back and just cry, and she would go back to my breast and eat and eat and eat, and then she'd pull back and cry. And so I had heard about tongue ties, and so I was like, I was kind of worried. I was like, I don't know if she has a tongue tie. So I ended up going to the pediatrician and trying to figure out if she had a tongue tie, if she had acid reflux, because her little tummy would make noises as well during the feeding. And so we took her to the doctor. The pediatrician was trying to figure out what was wrong with her, and he just said it's acid reflux. He gave me Nexium to give to my 3-week-old baby. I literally, let me just tell you, that was the first and the last time I went to that doctor. I was like, I'm done, we're not doing this. Like, I am not giving my baby Nexium. That's a no-no. Again, not to, you know, there are babies out there that do have acid reflux, and I'm not downing that at all, but I personally, as a mother, I know my mother instincts, and I knew my gut, and I knew my baby didn't have no acid reflux. Again, the same girlfriend that came over and helped me through my breastfeeding journey first couple days home with Aria, her little boy had a dairy intolerance, and she had mentioned that she had to go dairy free, and when she went dairy free, his fussiness and spots on his skin, the eczema, cleared up. I took dairy out of my diet, and I know it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for it to get completely out of your diet, and so I had to take that into consideration. So I took dairy out of my diet, which was the hardest thing ever. But for those mamas that are finding themselves in a situation where they have to take dairy out of their diet, I recommend joining a Facebook group on Facebook of other moms that are dairy free, and looking up recipes on Pinterest. And again, those groups do come in handy when it comes to things like that, because, you know, a whole bunch of moms would say, hey, what are you guys cooking for dinner? That was my favorite post. What are you guys cooking for dinner? Give me some dinner ideas. And so moms would throw out dinner ideas, and it was kind of like the best thing ever, because I felt super overwhelmed overwhelmed when I first was taking dairy out of my diet because dairy isn't everything. So I was kind of like, what am I gonna do? But it gets easier, you know, you do your research, and again, you join those groups and you get help from other people and from other moms that have gone through the same thing that you're going through or that I've gone through. So I took dairy out of her diet, and again, it took about 2 to 3 weeks for me to see a difference. I kind of noticed she got better pretty quickly after I took the dairy out of her diet, but to see the full results, it was definitely 2 to 3 weeks. Then once I thought I got it, I was like, okay, so dairy was the culprit, and you know, that was the issue. Then her poop started changing different colors. Like, I got really terrified because her poop was like, TMI, like a green, slimy, and then like blood started getting in it. So that's when I freaked out, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what to do here, and I just really need to figure it out. Another one of my girlfriends took her baby to a really good doctor that kind of, they take the homeopathic approach first, and then they give the baby medication if necessary. So I switched pediatricians, took her to the pediatrician, and they recommended probiotics. I didn't think about that at first, but that really made a difference whenever I started giving Aria probiotics in her breast milk. I would pump breast milk and then put probiotics in her breast milk and give it to her every morning, and then I would take them, and then, you know, I started noticing a difference. Now, I noticed a difference with like her eczema and things like that, but her stool was still green and bloody, and I remember taking her to the doctor for like literally what felt like the 15th millionth time, trying to figure out what is going on with my baby. I already took dairy out of her diet. I wasn't eating things spicy. I mean, I really couldn't figure out what it was. My pediatrician said the last resort we could do is you can do what's called a top 8 diet, which basically you take the top 8 the top 8 allergens out of your diet. So that was dairy, soy, wheat, gluten, peanuts, eggs. I was just like, basically guys, I was eating air. And so, not to mention, on top of all the stress of dealing with, you know, this breastfeeding journey and trying to figure out what's wrong with your baby, plus you're sleep deprived, and then breastfeeding does cause you to lose a lot of weight. So I was losing weight a lot because I was breastfeeding, and then on top of that I was taking all these things out of my diet, and I kind of again went through a period where I was like, I may have to stop breastfeeding because mentally it's just draining me. I'm losing weight, I'm feeling super skinny, I wasn't feeling attractive. I got to a point where I literally would just look at myself in the mirror and just break down crying, and Michael would have to just come over there and be like, what's wrong, babe? And I'm just like, I just don't feel beautiful. I've been, you know, sleep deprived, I'm not really eating very well, I'm not sleeping very well, I don't know what's wrong with Aria, I'm losing weight, like none of my clothes fit me anymore. And to some women that's like, yay, you lose all this weight, but for me, for someone that, you know, I've always been skinny my whole entire life, and yes, you know, great, good, you know, people are always like, I want to look like you, but sometimes, you know, you get the skinny shame, and I definitely have gotten that my whole entire life. And so it was just to the point where I was like, I want to feel like a woman, I want to feel like I have some curves. I definitely feel a lot better now. Like I had to really just look at myself in the mirror and say, you are beautiful, this is how you were made, this is how God made you, and don't let anyone make you feel inferior, and don't let anyone make you feel like you're less than. So I definitely want to tell you mamas out there, whether you're having a tough time losing weight, gaining weight, whatever it is, you are beautiful. And if your husband thinks you're beautiful, then nothing else should matter. And my husband literally had to look at me in my face and said, I love you, and I think you are the most gorgeous woman ever. You are my wife, and that to me should matter the most. You shouldn't care what anybody else thinks. And so when my husband said that to me, I was like, you're right, baby, you're right. So after I took the top 8 allergens out, I did that for a couple months. Finally, I saw some results. I saw that Ari was getting better, her stool was different. So I started slowly putting in each allergen back in. So I would do peanut butter, I would do eggs, I would do wheat. Then I figured out that soy was the culprit. At that time, I was breastfeeding, I was trying to be vegan, vegetarian. I just wanted to eat a healthier lifestyle. So I was eating a lot of tofu, a lot of soy, a lot of sushi, and that's around the time that Aria started getting the green stool poop and the blood and all that. And so I figured, hey, makes sense, that's what the culprit was. It was dairy and soy. After I figured out that dairy and soy was the culprit, I thought, okay, we're good to go. We're, you know, this is it. Like, I've been through the beginning stages of the pain. I've been through the latching. I've been through the dairy problems and the soy problems and all that. And so now finally it should be smooth sailing. Wrong again. Around 4 or 5 months, which is around the same time that I got my cycle for the first time, I noticed that my supply was going down drastically. Like, honestly, there was a day where I was pumping maybe 2 ounces, and that's just not like me. So around that time, she was sleeping in her bed, and she was kind of going for about 6 hours of sleep, and then she started going like 8 hours. Like, she literally was going through the whole night not sleeping. So I'm sleeping, so I wouldn't get up to pump. Like, I just thought, oh, okay, I'll just pump. I'll just feed her in the morning, and then I'll feed her, you know, I'll pump during the day while I'm at work, excuse me, and then, you know, feed her again when I'm with her. Well, I didn't realize that that was just definitely hurting my supply. And I met with the lactation consultant. She said you basically really need to be breastfeeding or pumping every 3 to 4 hours. So I was just kind of like, excuse me, what? And so to get my supply back up, she said, pump as much as you can. She said, set that alarm, wake up in the middle of the night, just continue just pumping as much as you can, as well as breastfeeding. She said, take a little breastfeeding vacation, which means, you know, where you spend all day with her and you have her latched at your breast. And I'm just like, oh my God, sounds painful. So I definitely, that's pretty much what I did. I started putting my alarm. I'd put my alarm at 3 a.m. I'd wake up. At first, when I first was trying to get my supply back up, I was kind of doing every 3 to 4 hours. And then when my supply got back up finally and it was good to go, I was set my alarm for just once, and I would wake up at 3 a.m. pump, and then she'd wake up like around like before 6 or 7, and I'd breastfeed her. And then when I was at work, I'd pump around lunchtime. And then I'd go, by the time it was time for me to go home, then, you know, I'd just breastfeed her as soon as I got to my mother-in-law's to feed her. I was doing this for a while, where I was waking up in the middle of the night and pumping and breastfeeding and keeping up with the every 3 to 4 hours. And around 9 or 10 months, kind of my supply started dwindling down again, because I think she was trying to eat, you know, she was eating more foods and more solids, and so she wasn't breastfeeding as much, and I just wasn't pumping as much. And I kind of hit a moment where there was a night where I went to go breastfeed her to put her to bed, and she's screaming. I'm like, okay, like and it's like I knew the scream. It was like a hunger scream. So I'm like, what's going on? So I told my husband to come in here, you know, carry her. I went out to try and pump, and I couldn't even get an ounce out. And that's when I was like, I had a mental breakdown. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I felt defeated once again, because I'm like, I'm doing everything I can. I'm pumping, I'm keeping up with the feedings. I don't know what I'm doing. What is the problem? Like, why is my supply dwindled down? And that was the first night. I remember texting one of my girlfriends, and I just remember saying, I feel so defeated, like I'm in tears. I sent my husband to Walmart at like 9 o'clock at night to go get formula for the very first time. We didn't know what kind of formula to get. I had no idea. This was kind of like spur of the moment, like it just happened, wasn't prepared mentally, physically, like nothing. Giving her formula that day was, I felt like a little part of me died, because I was like, I had this plan of just breastfeeding her until a year and only having breast milk, and I didn't want her to touch formula, and I felt defeated. I felt like because she had to have formula that I just wasn't good enough. And again, that's the lies that the enemy tries to give you, and that is not true. So I gave her formula, and it's like I prayed about it, and it's like God was saying, my daughter, you have done well, you have provided, you've got to trust in me, and you've got to, this is another one of those things where you gotta trust in me. And motherhood has taught me so much, and it's just really hard, and I have to be resilient for her. And I had to realize, okay, this is another step, and this is another journey. I'm still being a mother. Because I can't breastfeed her, or because I'm not producing enough does not mean that I'm less than and I'm not a good mom. So once I calmed down and I kind of just had a come to Jesus moment, I kind of felt like the Holy Spirit and Jesus just talking to me and just calming me down. It was okay. I said, you know what? And I honestly, I was to the point where I was physically so exhausted that I was kind of getting to that point where it's like, I want to stop breastfeeding, but we're not quite at the year mark yet. And it's like God was saying, I got you. You're really tired, and I need you to be rested, and I need you to be a mom. So I stopped stressing, and lo and behold, the supply came back up. And at that point I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep her on half breast milk and half formula during while my mother-in-law she's with my mother-in-law during the day while I'm at work, and then, you know, when I'm with her, then, you know, we'll breastfeed and all that. For me, that's just what worked. I wanted to go full entire year of exclusively breastfeeding, but guess what, I went a full year of breastfeeding, because as long as that baby's on my boob and eating, she is breastfed. So I don't care what nobody tells me. I'm proud of my journey, and you should be proud of your journey no matter what you do. If you breastfeed for 2 weeks, if you breastfeed for a month, if you breastfeed for 3 months, 4 months, whatever, or if you don't breastfeed at all and you give your baby formula, you have made a decision that's best for you and your baby, and I am proud of you, girl. So don't let anybody tell you that you're less than, okay? For those of asking like how I breastfed still while going to work, I would definitely recommend pumping at work. And so for my industry, I work in the medical field, and I work for a medical device company, so I'm at different hospitals, and so each hospital has like a labor and women's women in delivery section part of the hospital, and most of them have a pump room. Pretty much all the hospitals that I visit have a pump room, so I'll definitely break away during lunchtime and go pump. My insurance gave me a pump, the Medela pump, and so I used that when I was at home. And then when I went to work, it's crazy, this pump was given to me by someone that just decided they just didn't want to breastfeed, and it's totally fine, but this pump was given to me by someone that didn't end up breastfeeding. And at first I was just like, oh, this pump probably isn't gonna have a really good suction as well as the Medela one. Totally wrong. I'm gonna show you this pump. So this is the pump that I was given to me by a family member, and it is an even flow, and it's the electric manual, or sorry, the electric single pump, whatever you want to call it, but it's by even flow, and you get this at Walmart. But I will say this is a specific thing to this pump. This pump is great, and it suctions very, very well. This is the little part where you enter this little piece right here, and you put it right in there, and this is the other part to it, and you just kind of connect it. I'm not very good at this. Okay, there you go. This is how you connect it, and then you turn it on right here. I'm not gonna turn it on because it sounds really, really stupid. It sounds really bad. One day I was pumping in a hospital, and there was a lady next to me, and she was like, girl, what kind of pump is that? I said, look here, it's a cheap Walmart pump, but it works. So this is the pump that I use, and this little part will go, I don't know if you can see it, this little part right here will kind of go up and down, up and down. This pump right here, this specific pump, you have to find this little piece right here, this little, it looks like a little treble piece is what I call it, a little treble piece right here, but it isn't treble because this is the greatest thing. This pump, this even flow pump, this specific one is the best thing. I went to Colorado with my family back in April, and I left my pump, totally wasn't even thinking about it, left my pump, and I ended up going to a Target in Colorado, and I tried getting an even flow one, and it was not the same, and I was like totally like, what happened? Well, like, it's not the same pump. So I really don't know like what the specific one is, but I just know that when you get your even flow pump from Walmart or Target, make sure it has this piece, like this is the suction piece, because the other one had like this little, it looked like a cup, and it was plastic, and it was different. I don't know what it was, but it just did not do anything. It did not suction very well. It was pretty much I wish I would never got that pump. Like, it was kind of a waste of money. Like, it's just not good. This one, however, I prefer this one over the Medela one. This is, you know, the one that the insurance gives you, the Medela, you know, and then it comes with this little piece right here to suction, and you just plug it up in here. But I actually prefer this Walmart pump over my Medela. So for those of you that are asking what I use to pump, this is it. So there you have it, ladies. That is my breastfeeding journey. I hope this video has encouraged some of you mamas. I hope that you guys loved it. I hope that you learned some tips, and just know again that your journey is going to be your journey and it's different from everybody else's. You can grab some things, some takeaways from this video, but again, your journey is your journey, and do not let anyone pressure you. As long as you're doing what's best for you and your baby, you got it, girl. I'm with you, okay? Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Mwah. Bye.